This picture. There's something creepy about it. August 16, AD Min-soo, who was in charge of preparing for the broadcast, picked up one of the many psychic photos sent in from all over the country and told the producer. It must be because it's a real psychic photo. The producer didn't think much of it, but when he saw the photo Min-soo held out, a chill ran down his spine. Against a black background, a woman in a pure white bridal gown was clearly visible. The producer hastily covered the photo and said firmly, "We can't use this on air." Min-soo looked incredulous. "If it's a real psychic photo, shouldn't we use it?" But the producer was adamant. "All psychic photos on the air are fake. If we use real ones, our staff will get sick or injured. It can even kill them, and it can affect the viewers through the screen. There are actually quite a few shows that have been cancelled for that reason." Min-soo was disappointed that he felt like he discovered an adult secret, but as a non-believer in ghosts, he laughed sarcastically. "Where's the guarantee that this is real? It's just a picture of a woman in a bridal gown." The producer said nothing and stared down at the photo with a blank expression. "You just know when you've been around long enough," the producer replied calmly. "To you, this looks like just another photo." Min-soo looked at the photo again. The producer continued quietly. "The background is all black, but if you look closely, you'll see faint pebbles." Min-soo looked at the photo again with a puzzled expression, and in the right corner, he saw a clear pebble. "Does that mean?" the producer added in a lowered voice. "It means she wasn't supposed to be there. She was kept there by some unavoidable circumstance." Despite the serious tone, Min-soo still found it hard to understand. But it could be a double exposure, or a simple photoshopping. With today's technology, you can do anything. The producer silently held out a small piece of paper, as if anticipating Min-soo's reaction. "First, take this and follow me here." A brief outline was drawn on the paper. Min-soo recognized it at first glance. It was a restaurant that the station often used. Another restaurant? It wasn't the kind of place Min-soo, a churchgoer, would have liked. But arguing with him now would only get him in trouble. He reluctantly accepted the paper, thinking that it would be better to just go and get it over with. "I should probably get some sleep on the train," he concluded, stuffing the photo into an envelope and shoving it deep into his bag before heading to the train station. It was an ambiguous time of day, but the city was still bustling with people. Just as he was about to cut the ticket in front of the turnstile and pass through, over the din, he faintly heard a sound that no one else would have spoken. Min-soo stopped walking and looked around. "Did I just? What was that?" He thought it was a little strange, but his fatigue was more than that. He shook his head and quickened his pace. "That's weird, why am I so sleepy?" And then, there it was again, the sound. Now it was too clear to be an illusion. A sound so distinctly different from the noise around me, so alien that it seemed to be right in my ear. "What is it? It's getting closer?" A chill ran down his spine. Min-soo's eyes widened in horror. And there she was. A woman in a pure white bridal gown was standing right in front of him. A pale face, emotionless and expressionless, staring straight ahead with empty eyes. Min-soo suddenly realized. He was a skeptic who didn't believe in ghosts, but at this moment, he couldn't refute it. No, he didn't even need to refute it. The woman in the photo, she was there. In the flesh, on the train he was on. No one else seemed to notice anything out of the ordinary. She stood still among the passengers. Dressed in a pure white bridal gown, it was as if time had stopped. If I don't say this is strange, what am I supposed to say? But even more eerie, Min-soo was the only one who saw her. And Min-soo knew instinctively. He shouldn't go any deeper. His head throbbed. The ringing in his ears grew louder and louder. "I'm just tired." As if trying to convince himself, Min-soo squeezed his eyes shut. This is all just an illusion. A hallucination. But at that moment, "Are your mother and father healthy?" An unfamiliar voice whispered right next to his ear. Min-soo's entire body froze. His eyes flashed open reflexively. And then, he saw her face right in front of him. Her pale face, emotionless and expressionless. She was staring at him, close enough to hear his breathing. "Ugh!" Min-soo screamed and reflexively pulled back. The people around him looked at him strangely, but no one was looking at her. That couldn't be right. If she was so close, why wasn't anyone paying attention? Now she had to get away. Min-soo scrambled to his feet and flung himself into the next compartment. The phone. "I have to call my producer right now." It was no use asking the passengers around him for help. No one would understand this situation. He quickly pressed the call button. Luckily, there wasn't a long dial tone, and soon I heard the familiar voice of the producer. "What's up, Min-soo? What's wrong?" I was instantly relieved. No matter how unbelievable what had happened, the producer was at least someone who could understand it. "The woman in the picture, that's her?" Panicked and unable to explain properly, Min-soo poured out the horror of what had just happened. Hold on for now. No matter how scared you are, you should never throw away a photo. The producer was so calm, as if this wasn't the first time this had happened. Min-soo had no choice but to trust the producer. No, he wanted to, because at this moment, he was the only one he could rely on. But one thing was clear. He should never throw the photos away. Be careful, throwing away psychic photos is the most dangerous thing you can do. The producer's voice grew stranger and stranger. Strange. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound on the other end of the phone. The producer's voice eroded into a hum, and then boom. The call went dead. Shit. Min-soo looked down at his phone and let out a deep sigh. The next moment, she was standing in front of the driver's seat. A pure white bridal dress. An expressionless face, devoid of any emotion. She was looking at Min-soo. She didn't want to think about it anymore. No, there was no time to think. Min-soo reflexively turned and ran at full speed. Please, stop. He jumped up as soon as the train arrived. I have to get out of here. I have to get away from this horrible nightmare. But I couldn't get her image out of my head. Those empty eyes. Her expression, so somber and yet so full of resentment. I heard it again. The screaming, the strange ringing in my ears. No, now I was just imagining it, but I could hear it in reality. As soon as he got off the train, Min-soo unconsciously jumped forward. And at that moment, white clothes. She was clearly visible in the crowded crowd. Min-soo quickly pulled out a map. No matter how he looked at it, he could tell that she wasn't checking the directions, but looking for a way out. She must run. He ran as fast as he could toward the destination on the map. When she was out of breath, the moment Min-soo arrived at the store, his whole body relaxed. It was a small shop, but for the moment, it felt like a sanctuary. The relief of being free from fear brought tears to his eyes. Thump. Min-soo knocked on the door roughly. After a moment, the door creaked open. Without saying a word, he looked straight at Min-soo, his eyes seeming to pierce through him. Boo, please. Min-soo gasped and dug through his bag. He quickly pulled out an envelope and took out a photo. Please take care of this photo. The old man stared at the photo without saying a word, and then, his face instantly stiffened. I'm sorry. The old man shook his head as he handed the photograph back. It's not acceptable here. For a moment, Min-soo's heart sank. What? He thought it would be over. Why? I was told I could come. Here. Min-soo pleaded desperately. But the old man's expression remained serious. This is not an ordinary psychic photo. The old man's voice sounded low and heavy. I've never seen anything like this before. For a moment, the air around them seemed to chill. Then it can't be solved? I asked, despair washing over me. The old man bowed his head without saying a word. Wait. Min-soo urgently grabbed the old man's arm. Please explain what the hell you're talking about. The old man sighed when he saw Min-soo's trembling fingertips. He reluctantly opened his mouth. This woman must have been the victim of a human sacrifice to the gods, long ago. The old man's voice was heavy and determined. Her soul has been transported to the land of the gods. Min-soo swallowed hard. So, you're saying it can't harm me? The old man nodded slowly. I can see it, but it won't harm you directly. Hearing that, Min-soo's heart seemed to lighten for a moment. But the next moment, the old man added firmly. In any case, we can't help you here. Min-soo's mind went blank. I thought it would be over once I got this far. But now they can't fix it? Does that mean I have to live like this? Why me? Min-soo muttered helplessly. That's when the sound of a tearing ringing in his ears began. The ear-splitting sound never stopped. He resigned and left the station. When he told people that he saw a woman in a white bridal gown in the photo, they all reacted the same way. It's Niroj, you're too sensitive. What happened to her hair? Min-soo didn't want to tell anyone anymore. People didn't believe him, so he locked himself in his room, afraid to go outside. But even today, he could hear it. A voice whispering in his ear. Are my father and mother well? And, faintly, the sound of singing. She was still there. Beyond the window, a woman dressed in white stared sadly out the other side. Min-soo pulled the covers over his head. But no matter how much he covered himself, he could still see her. I wonder if I have to live with her like this for the rest of my life. The moment he thought that, he suddenly realized. Now, this has become my daily life.